Dear God, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak, Lord, your word. Help this reach who you want it to reach. Draw near to each and every person who listens to this and watches this. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey guys, so the point of this video, this isn't going to be targeted for anyone. Anyone can watch this. Atheists, I hope you're still watching this, because I think you can possibly get a lot from this. So I want to try to dispel some myths that some believers have about God, but some atheists, some New Agers, people in other faiths could also have these myths about God. In fact, I may even have some myths about God in my head. I'm learning every day something new about him and his nature. He can just unfold, the way okay. Everything in human life has a beginning and an end. We have different phases that begin and end, different stages of our life that have a beginning and an ending. Our lives itself have a beginning and an ending. Earth itself has a beginning and an ending. Our universe, our space, may have even had a beginning and an ending. But God does not have a beginning and an ending. He is all powerful, infinite, and we really have a hard time grasping this concept within our 3-pound brain, within our short time span that we have on this earth. And one of the most common things that people do when thinking of God is limiting God. And atheists do this a lot. Christians do this too. Feeling like God isn't here for us in every little thing. He doesn't care about our little minute details of our lives that really don't mean a whole lot to us, maybe minor annoyances or minor joys, and God doesn't really care if I watch this show right now, or God doesn't really care if I eat this one food right now, or God doesn't really care if I, if I just lay in bed an extra 20 minutes, things like that. We say, we take God out of certain areas of our lives, or we think that he doesn't care about some things. There are just some things that we might just shrug off ourselves, and we think, oh, God doesn't care either. I don't care. God doesn't care. I'm just going to do these things. But he actually does care. He does care. He cares that you're feeling the need to stay in bed an extra 20 minutes. He cares about, your lack of motivation. He cares about you wanting to spend time watching a TV show more than spending time in his word. Or you care more about, eating some bad food versus nourishing your body with something that he made, something that he would like you to eat, that would nourish you better. He cares about all kinds of things, and we might not care about some of these things in the moment. We might not care. That's the difference. Just because we don't care about something doesn't mean God doesn't care about something. And he cares about every single tiny little minuscule thing that he has given us in our lives to either overcome or to do. He gives us tasks, he gives us challenges, he gives us joys and celebrations too. But a lot of times we miss the mark a little bit. Not so much, oh, we're so evil. We slept in an extra 30 minutes, and instead of waking up and starting the day the right way, we cut certain things out of our time. Not to say that sometimes that isn't worthy, to have some more rest, and you need to take care of yourself, but it's finding that line with God. Finding that line and hearing his voice in his heart, in the day-to-day, in the mundane. He's there in the mundane. And you cannot limit him. Okay, in a way, you think, oh, God is too big to care about the little. But almost a way to think, oh, he can't care about this because he's so big. Things matter more to him. But that's actually not true. Everything that happens, by definition of him being an infinite God, that means he's infinite even in the tiny, even in the tiniest things that we think, it doesn't matter, you know. On the grand scheme of, you know, when we are going to have that white throne of judgment where he is going to look at our collection of our lives, okay, is he really going to point at, you know, you chose to eat donuts versus the grass-fed organic beef I had given to you in your freezer, and you let that rot while you ate donuts. You know, something. He's not going to necessarily point at that over a bigger sin that would be in the Ten Commandments, you know. However, it adds up. And where your heart is, you can see it in the little actions that you do that you might not think at first. Like, you know, before I wouldn't think that these things mattered that much. I'm a little tired now, I can take a nap. Instead of using this time to try to overcome this feeling of physical, like, drainedness, and just spend time in his word and let him energize me, and then he can propel me to do other things, you know, clean the house, or make things nicer for my daughter, serving people in my family, answering the phone and having a conversation with my mom who's calling me and needing my help with this and that, and sometimes I might ignore her call instead of answering because I just don't have the energy, or whatever the thing. I might not think, oh, God is, you know, he's not the God that judges or condemns. He wants to bring us to the place where he is. He wants to lift us up from the place where we are. He meets us where we are, in our brokenness, in our state of non-wholeness, imperfection, our state of sin, our state of grossness, or whatever our state is, wherever we are, whatever level we're on, our state of brokenness, he meets us there, right where we are. And he just wants to lift us up, lift us to him. And this doesn't happen like, whoop, now you're with God. Like, that doesn't really happen. It can happen. I'm not limiting the power of God here. He can absolutely do that to someone. Generally, that's not the process, because generally, if he were to do this to you, that's something that you can't do. You can't bring yourself to God. You can't we can't do that. We are going to struggle. We tend to do this dance where I want control. God, I want you to have control. Okay, now I'm going to have control, and now, God, I'm going to give you control. And as a Christian, we do this dance. Especially when things are good, the more things that end up being good, the more we try to, like, take control back and say, okay, God, thanks for that. Thanks for getting me out of that pickle. Now I think I'm going to take it from here. And then, you know, we're going to end up needing his help again. And kind of like, if you look at the walk in the wilderness, in Exodus, and I don't know exactly where and whatever, but the Jews walking through from Egypt to the Promised Land, and they're going through all this wilderness, and they will have their prayer. They had all their needs met, you know, but they kept crying out. They kept finding something to cry out to God about. So God would meet you in one area, and then you'd need him in another area, and God kept them super dependent on him through the entire journey. But he never left their side. He never abandoned them. He was there with them through the whole journey to the Promised Land. And we look at that as a parable of our human life on earth. We are right now walking through wilderness. And we think that Sometimes we don't think God's there. Sometimes we don't think God's going to meet one of our needs. We get anxious. We complain. We cry. We try to make things happen on our own. Sometimes we sin to try to make things happen on our own. We curse him. We blame him. We wallow around, and he provides. And he provides, and he always comes through until the end. If we are staying with him the whole way, if we don't stray from his path, we get to that promised land. We are the ones that make it into that promised land, heaven, the promised land of eternal life with God. And the ones who don't, the ones who just decide, you know what, I'm not gonna be on board with this whole God thing. He's giving us, he gave us manna, but the manna didn't taste good after a while. Yeah, then he started to give us meat, but you know what? We didn't have this. It just, then you don't get into the promised land. And see, the thing is, some people will say, oh, Christian, you're condemning everyone to hell, and it's not me. It's your choice. This is your choice. If there is a hell, I've said this in a previous video, I'm not 100% sure yet that there is a hell in the form of eternal darkness and punishment and fire and all of that. I'm not 100% sure about that. I'm a baby Christian. I'm learning this. Maybe some of you guys can learn this with me. I know a lot of Christians do 100% believe that. I am open to that belief. If that is the truth, then so be it. I still love God, even if that is the truth. And if it's not the truth, then either way, if it is the truth or not the truth, whether hell exists in that form or in a different form, or, hell is just really a place of death and soul death where the soul ceases to exist after a while, or, some people even believe that there is possibility for redemption from hell, that, maybe one person will see God's truth after a year of hell. Maybe another person needs 10 years in hell, and another person needs 100 years in hell, and another person needs 1,000,000 years in hell. But eventually everyone will come to him. That is a view that I see being a possibility, especially since God has said, he wants to reconcile all to him. I think they call this universalism, but at the same time, I feel like if you really do believe that, it's dangerous. It's a dangerous, slippery slope path, because then you're thinking, that's a short step to, like, being okay with sin, because, if I just make it to hell, I can still get out of it. Hell is not eternal. It's more helpful to view hell as eternal separation from God. And I feel like it is possibly that way. The way this life is, this is our chance. This is our chance. This is the middle ground here, Earth. We have almost, I would say, if we really were able to take a measurement of all the good and all the bad experiences of Earth, it would pretty much be in a constant state of equal, which is the beauty of it. This is our middle ground. This is our battleground. This is our temporary place where anything and everything can go. Good, bad, all of it. Of God and not of God. This is the spectrum where God allows himself to be, but also allows things other than himself to be. And this is the only place, this earth, this plane, this is the only place where this is allowed to happen. These two, warring sides are allowed to exist here. The polar opposites. And so we as conscious human beings, we have a decision, we have a choice to make. I'm either going to be on God's side or I'm not going to be on God's side. And if you are on God's side, and if you live for God, and you give your life to him, and you believe in him, and you walk with him, you will continue to live and walk with him forever and ever in eternity. You've made this choice. And if you've not made this choice, if you chose to reject God, if you chose to, do what you wanted to do, and not do anything, not even acknowledge the God, not even, then you have chosen for yourself to continue living without God. And I can see this being an eternal, this is the place where the eternal choice is made. So in that way, I could see the possibility of there being an eternal hell. I'm seeing some parables of hell in different ways, though. I'll get into that, and I'll get into this in another video. Because maybe some other believers can strengthen me in this area, help me see exactly how it is biblically, because I like I said, I haven't read all the Bible on it, but there are some verses in the Bible that don't seem to point to me necessarily that it is an eternal place. That maybe there's a place where you have paid your debt and then that's the end. I think there's a few parts in Matthew that sort of suggest that hell is a place you pay until the last penny. I forgot the verses. I'll make another video for this because I think this is an interesting topic that we can have a lot of good discussion on. But anyway, so my point is, forget about hell. We don't. If you're a believer in Christ, we don't even need to worry about hell. You only need to worry about hell, the possibility of hell, what there is, if you don't have God. That's where hell might interest you. If you don't have God, then you might need to know about that to get ready. But I have Jesus. I have Jesus. I have God living in my heart. I'm going to be in heaven with him. I know this for sure. He has shown me this. He has shown me sort of the work we're going to be doing in heaven in the last battle, and just I think in my part 3 video for atheists, I get into that, what I felt heaven would be really like. And I know heaven, I know for sure heaven is real, and it's beautiful, and it's amazing, and God is there, and Jesus is there, and he's so big, and he wants every soul to come in there, and that's really the only important thing, is to just get people to come to him. But he cares about our day-to-day little choices, our tiny little choices that we make, whether we choose to, between 2 different kinds of food to eat, whether we choose to, all of our little tiny minor choices, everything that we make. I chose to make this video versus not making this video. He's involved, and if you really listen for him, he will direct you to make even the tiniest choices for the better. Using your left foot to walk first instead of your right foot. I mean, there are little things that we don't even consider have sort of like butterfly effect sort of things. And we need to surrender to that in all things. We need to surrender all of our actions to him, all of it, as much as we are physically, mentally, emotionally able to surrender. It needs to be like a constant thing for us, because he is involved in even the tiniest of actions, even the tiniest little encounters with people. He is involved in that. We have a choice to either have a positive encounter with someone or a negative encounter with someone. We have a choice to either speak to them about God and try to make a heart change, or we have the option to remain shy and quiet, or not wanting to open that door and make things uncomfortable, or if we invite God into this and say, hey God, I really do want to talk to God about this person. I really do want to talk about you to this person, but I'm so scared of what's going to happen. I'm in my head. You're giving this up. He will give you strength. Maybe not right away, but he may give you that strength in time to be able to speak to other people about him. And like every little thing of your life, he is a part of, he is involved in. And when you start living for him, when you have started to surrender your life and walking with him, you really start to see that more and more and more, how even the tiniest little details he is a part of. And it's beautiful, and it becomes an adventure. And this is really, a lot of people will look at my life and say, wow, you've gone from like, you know, having fun all the time to, wow, you live a really boring life. You don't even watch TV. You don't even like listen to like rap music or like popular music that we all listen to. You don't go out and drink. You don't go party. You don't smoke weed. You don't drink at all, even on the weekends. You don't do anything. You just, you know, yeah, yeah, you have some friends. Yeah, you go to church. Yeah, you have a daughter. You do things with your daughter. You do things with your family. But man, you overall, some people look at my life and some people have even told this to me. Aren't you bored of your life? Isn't your life boring? It's like, no. For the first time in my life, I know what never being bored feels like. I used to be bored all the time before God. I used to find myself being bored. Just, oh, I'm bored, I'm going to go watch this movie. Oh, I'm so bored, I'm going to go do this. And I would just try to find things to do to fill my time. When I wasn't working or when I didn't have other things to do, I would just be so bored all the time. And I would say that, oh God, I'm bored, But once you find God, once you get him into your heart and you start seeing your life in a different way, it's not boring. Everything becomes interesting. Everything has a new meaning and it's a new adventure from the big to the small. And you just see him working and it's a new adventure. It really, really, really is. You cannot limit God in thinking that, okay, he's big, he doesn't care about these little things. That's a limiting thing of God. He is big and he cares about these little things. It's not one or the other. It's both. And to some people who try to say that God can be explained by brain chemicals. Well, brain chemicals were created by God. My brain was created by God. Whatever chemical components are going around in my brain right now, God put them there. God directed them there. He makes me feel exactly the way I'm feeling. He is a part of this. And if somebody else who has a similar experience, they have the same brain chemical as me, that doesn't disprove that God is here. It's just, he knows how our brains work. He knows how they're wired. And if I've had other experiences religiously, like doing New Age movement. I have had experiences that I could not explain. I have had spiritual experiences. I've heard voices. I've spoken to spirit guides. I have done Reiki healings, and I've felt and I've seen like energy clouds on people's bodies where they had trauma and where they were carrying different energies. I used to do this all the time. I knew spiritual experiences outside of Christianity. Like tangible ones where I would be able to sense a person's trauma from their childhood, and I would cry with them, and I felt like this was really the answer. Okay, you have no idea the deep experiences I used to have. And God was there through them, I do believe that. However, there were also possibly some other energies present that were trying to keep me from seeing God, truly. The interesting thing is now, it hasn't gone away, my ability to connect and see the pain in people. In a way, it's gotten a lot stronger. But it's not something that I am now wishing to manipulate. It's now something that I see something in someone, and I see that I need to pray for them for this specific reason. I see maybe I need to bring it up to them to help them. And I see it being used for a different purpose. I see certain things within someone that, oh, they need my help in this area. This person has physical healing that they need. I need to help them in this area. This person went through an emotional trauma in their childhood, and I can connect to them in this because I went through similar emotional trauma. It's different. And sometimes you don't know until you start speaking to them, and then it opens up. And it works in a much more different way, and it's much more powerful, and it's much more useful. Before, a lot of times I would have these experiences with someone, and things would be released, and there would be tears and crying, but there wouldn't be any actual healing coming from that. Usually after that experience, I'd see them a few more times, and then it would fall away. It wouldn't be lasting. It wouldn't be a lasting. It would just be like maybe a Band-Aid from the moment. It would be like and I would get them into meditation, and then that would place a Band-Aid on it for the moment. But God, Jesus, offers true and lasting healing. I would be able to get into the presence and be, sometimes you see those people with the bumper stickers, the namaste or whatever, and they end up being like the jerkiest people on the road, there's jokes about this all the time in the New Age movement, how like, oh, we gotta be present, JP Sears does a really good joke video on this about ultra spirituality, and it's actually rooted in some truth, because whatever peace you feel in these other types of religions, you do feel a sense of peace, okay? Especially in the act of meditation. The act of meditation is a peaceful act. It's going to, bring your body, it slows your parasympathetic nervous system down. It activates different centers of your brain. Okay, I get that. There are things being activated in the brain. It might be similar to the same kinds of things being activated in the brain in prayer. But that doesn't mean that these things are totally equal, because meditation, yes, you're peaceful while you're meditating, but you know what? You can get right up out of meditation and go and do something, off the wall. It's not lasting. When Jesus comes into your heart, we still sometimes it's much more lasting. Like, it just stays with you. Even if you're trying to sometimes take control back a little bit, you're directed in a way so you don't go so far. You're stopped, you're convicted, you feel differently about things that and I've talked about this before, you suddenly see things that bring you closer to God or bring you further away from God. And you naturally start to crave the things that bring you closer to God, and it just opens, and it becomes a cycle. And you go away from the things that take you away from God. I've said this in my last video, I went really much into it, and I said it again in another video too. But that's why these things are all connected. Your actions, your heart, God, our brains, everything, it's all bringing one change. You can't experience this without knowing God, without inviting Him into your life, without inviting Him into your heart, without saying, God, I want to know that you're real. Show me that you're real. Show me that you're powerful. Show me who you want me to be. Let me know who you are, and I will follow you. If you say these words, I will follow you if you lead me. And if you say these words every day, even if you don't get a response from the first day, even if you don't get a response second day, maybe a week, maybe a month, I don't know how long it would take. I don't know. But if you say this with a true heart, God, I just want to know you. I just want to know if you're real. And if you are real, if you show me you're real, I'll follow you. He will reveal Himself to you, and He will reveal His will for you. Dear God, if anyone watches this, Lord, please direct their feet to your path, Lord, and help them to see you. Help them to know you and feel you, Lord. And strengthen their bond to you if they do already know you. In Jesus' name.